Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you how to use vellum and a little double-sided adhesive to make an elegant autumn card project. Let me show you the tools and products you need to make this card. First, you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Gina Designs charcoal brown ink along with some of our Kraft ink. You're also going to need an embossing ink, and I'm using the VersaMark watermark stamp pad. This is a great ink for embossing or just leaving a watermark behind. Speaking of embossing, we're going to do some embossing today, and I am using the Gina Designs Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. I'm also using an embossing magic pad, and this removes static or oils from the surface of the piece of paper or cardstock, and this way you only get embossing powder exactly where you want it. I'm also going to be using a sponge dauber, some adhesive, some of our dark chocolate organdy ribbon, and this comes in the new Simple Things StampTV kit. For cardstock, I am using some of our Ivory cardstock, our dark chocolate, Cranberry Tart, and then I have a piece of vellum, and I know a lot of you ordered the vellum when we first released it, and you've been asking me to do a project with it, so here's a piece of vellum, and then I also have a piece of the Silhouette double-sided adhesive, and again, we released that along with our StampTV kit. And a lot of you have purchased this. We've reordered it several times, and you're dying to see a fun way to use it. And this is a really cool way to use it. So these are both cut to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. They're cut to the same exact size. And also, my Cranberry Tart is cut to that same exact size, too. You're also going to need some scissors to cut your ribbon, some 1/4 inch pop dots, and some stamps, and these stamps are from the new Simple Things StampTV kit. This skeleton leaf is from the Simple Things stamp set, and the greeting that says, "Thank you so very much," this one is from Bounty of Blessings, and both stamp sets come in the new kit. Now I'm going to be using some dies too, and these are our brand new Stackers nesting dies, and I'm going to be using the plain circles and the inverted circles. These are like an inverted scallop, and they also come in just regular scallops as well, so if you're looking for those. But these are really fun because these create a really interesting look when you use the plain one with the inverted scallop around the perimeter, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So these are kind of fun to use. Also, when you get these dies, they come on a magnetic sheet, so they won't come off the magnetic sheet, and it's a great way to store them. I just kind of throw them all in a basket, and then I can just kind of page through them and see which ones I want to use, so it keeps them nice and organized. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to use this piece of vellum paper, and I'm going to use the embossing magic to rub over the top of it. I want to remove any static from it and also any oil from the lotion that I used on my hands or anything else like that. Okay, then I'm going to grab that VersaMark pad, that along with the skeleton leaf, and I'm going to randomly stamp the skeleton leaf all over this piece of vellum paper. So I'm going to ink it up with the stamp on its back. I kind of like to do that because I feel like I get more ink all over the stamp. And then, like I said, randomly stamp these. Now, this is difficult to see on the camera, but when you do this in person, you might be able to see, you probably can see that shine. There you go. See the shine? Okay, so you'll be able to see it in person, so you won't stamp leaves on top of leaves. That watermark does show up pretty well. Okay, so I'll put one about here. And one down here. I like to stagger them and really not create too much of a pattern, because then it looks more like pattern paper or background paper. If they're too organized or all facing the same way, it looks like too much of a pattern. All right, this one I'm going to pop right in here. And it is a sticky ink, so you may want to just put your finger somewhere on the paper to prevent it from sticking to the stamp. Let's do this one here. And my VersaMark pad is a little bit dirty. I'm sure you can see that from working with all kinds of techniques, but that's okay. When you're using a colored embossing powder like I am, using the white, you won't see any of that. I actually have one VersaMark pad that I keep separate, and I only use it for when I'm working with the clear embossing powder. All right, we'll put one here. And let's do just a little bit in this section right here. Okay, so now we have all of our leaves stamped. And again, this might be difficult to see, but there you go, you can see them shining. Such a neat ink. All right, I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper here and just lay this on top. And I'm going to coat those leaves with some of this fine detail white powder. Trying not to touch the VersaMark as I do this. And you can see now I have leaves coated with embossing powder. Isn't that pretty? Just like that, it's so pretty. Something about using the skeleton leaves on vellum makes them look even more realistic. Okay, let me put this powder away and then we'll emboss those leaves and you'll be able to see how pretty they come up in white. You could do this in clear too if you wanted to, and it would have a different look, but the white is quite striking. And it does emboss fairly quickly on the vellum. I see just a little bit of something here, so I'm just going to wipe that out. You can use a tiny paintbrush too if you have one. I don't have one with me right now, but a tiny little paintbrush will remove any little excess spots that you find on your paper. All right, so we'll have a little bit there, but that won't be so bad. And you can see that's all coming up much whiter now and shiny. Turn it around. And get these other ones. Okay. Now truly, that in and of itself is just a beautiful look for background paper. But vellum can get a little bit wrinkled when you emboss it. So I want to show you how to create a really neat background using this. And the thing is, they do make some vellum tapes, but I can still kind of see where the tape is. And if you just tape the corners or you tape around, that tape is going to show through on the vellum. So I want to show you how to adhere this to a piece of cardstock without any of that. And that's where this Silhouette double-sided sticky tape comes in. So what you're going to do is you're going to peel off the one side. Peel off the yellow side first. Actually, it doesn't really matter, but I like to peel the yellow side off first. Okay. And now I'm going to line this up. Actually, it's stuck to the yellow side, so we'll use the yellow side. That's funny. Okay, so now I'm going to stick this to this piece of sticky tape. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. I just want to make sure that I line it up right. Okay. And then kind of smooth it out as you go. Pressing out all the air bubbles. Okay. So now we can remove that yellow sticky part, or that yellow backing. Okay. Now we have a piece of vellum that's completely covered with adhesive. Now I'm going to use the Cranberry Tart cardstock, and I'm going to adhere this on top of the Cranberry Tart. And again, excuse my head if it gets in the way. I just want to line it up properly at the top here. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're going to gently press out all of the air bubbles. Go right down the center and then kind of work your way out. And this gives your vellum a really neat color and creates a really neat texture in the background. So you can rub that real well. There we go. Now this whole panel is going to go on top of a piece of dark chocolate. So I can use regular adhesive for that because this is just regular cardstock back here. Oh, and try this on lots of different colors. You'll be amazed at how beautiful the vellum transforms, how beautifully it transforms different colors of cardstock. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to add a little bit of ribbon. And I'm just going to go behind this layer here and tack down this dark chocolate ribbon. And then this whole panel is going to go onto my ivory card base. All right. And now we're going to have a little fun with the greeting. We're going to create a really pretty medallion using those Stackers nesting dies. So let me put this aside for a minute, and let me grab a piece of this ivory cardstock. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp this using some of the charcoal brown, and that greeting, the thank you so very much. And I'm going to stamp it right about here. And then I'm going to find the right size die, which I think will be this one. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to grab my Cuttlebug here. And I'm going to start with an A and a B plate. And then add my piece of cardstock and my die. And if you have other dies like Spellbinders dies or round punches or any of that, they will work just fine. So you don't have to use these dies to make circles. Run that through again just to make sure. Okay. Now I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to emboss it. So I'll need my embossing pad. I'm just going to lay that down. You can see I've stamped on that a few times. And my B plate, and this very, very worn out piece of chipboard. So that will create my embossed layer. And you can see the perimeter of that has a nice embossed layer. I'm going to put that back together because I'm going to sponge on that. But before I do that, I want to grab 2 dies. Let's see what size I want to use here. I think I want to use this size. And this one is going to be cut out of some dark chocolate. So I will do an A and a B plate and cut this. There we go. So there is my inverted scalloped circle. And I'm going to go with the similar die, same size die, but in the plane. And I'm going to cut out an ivory one of those. And if you hear popping and cracking, that's normal. If you find that if you purchase our dies and you find that you need a little bit of extra something to have them cut cleanly, just add one little piece of cardstock as a kind of a shim to tighten it up a little bit. But every Cuttlebug is a little bit different, so I would say, you know, just try it first without the shim, and then if you need it, add it, because you don't want to make it too tight where you could possibly break your plates. Okay, so now I have these, and I am going to turn this over and grab my Kraft ink with this sponge dauber, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of ink around the perimeter of this greeting. There we go. And I'll pop that out of the die, and you can see that creates another little layer around the outside. Okay, so now we're going to assemble this medallion. And the way we're going to do that is, I've got a little something there. We're going to put this dark chocolate one on top of the white one, and that's going to create this tiny little scalloped edge, which is so cute. Just love that. And then, using some 1/4-inch pop dots, I'm going to raise the greeting piece in the center to give it some depth. And that kind of makes a neat looking medallion. Like that. You can see that's raised there, so it's got a little bit more interest. And now my last step is going to be to add that to my card, and you can add it in the center if you want it to be focused on the center. You can add it off to the side. You can put it wherever you want. Here is a finished card. You don't have to watch me tape that on, but here is a finished card that I made a little bit earlier today, and you can see I put it off to the left a little bit, and I think it looks nice there. So there's my finished card project. I hope you've enjoyed today's video project. Stay tuned for weeks of exciting stamping episodes featuring the brand new Simple Things StampTV kit.